From 8 to 10 p.m. last night, President Obama was comfortably ensconced at the Spring Hill Suites Hotel in Hampton, Virginia, where he was effortlessly winning the Republican presidential debate. The Republican presidential candidates were a couple of thousand miles away in a casino, behaving as if they'd been served too many free drinks at the roulette wheel. Casino security had to keep a sharp eye on a couple of them who almost came to blows, but the most shameful conduct belonged, as usual, to the Republican debate audience. We have seen Republican debate audiences cheer Rick Perry for executing more people than any Republican presidential candidate in history. We've seen them cheer the idea of letting a person without health insurance die. We have seen Republican debate audiences boo a soldier asking a question from Iraq. And last night, we saw the Republican debate audience offer cheering support to the most vile pronouncement any presidential candidate has ever made on a televised debate stage. That is Herman Cain's repeated belief that if you are not rich, you should blame yourself, that if you're not employed at the moment with 9% unemployment, you should blame yourself.
Herman Cain, I got to ask you, you said, quote, don't blame, 2 weeks ago, you said, don't blame Wall Street, don't blame the big banks. If you don't have a job and you're not rich, blame yourself. That was 2 weeks ago. The movement has grown. Do you still say that?
Yes, I do still say that. And here's why.
The Republican audience and the Republican candidates have very strong feelings about illegal immigration. The new frontrunner has suggested that the proper penalty for the men, women, children, and babies who try to enter the country illegally is that they be put to death without trial when they come in contact with a lethally electrified fence on our southern border. Willard M. Romney has deflected comments about his religion with grace, but being accused of hypocrisy on illegal immigration was more than even he could bear.
Admit you lose all of your standing from my perspective because you hired illegals in your home and you knew about it for a year. And the idea that you stand here before us and talk about that you're strong on immigration is on its face the height of hypocrisy.
Governor Romney?
Rick, I don't think I've ever hired an illegal in my life. And so I'm afraid I'm looking forward to finding your facts on that because that just doesn't.
I'll tell you what the facts are.
Rick, again,
you had the
Rick, I'm speaking. I'm speaking.
The newspaper.
I'm speaking.
Time for you to tell the truth.
You get 30 seconds.
Time for you
this
to
is the way the rules work here. Is that I get 60 seconds.
Well, no, but the American
and then you get 30 seconds to respond, right?
And they want
Anderson,
to hear you say that you knew
would you please wait?
Working.
Are you just going to keep talking?
Yes,
let me finish with what I have to say. Look, Rick.
I thought Republicans followed the rules.
This has been a tough couple of debates for Rick, and I understand that, and so you're going to get testy. We hired a lawn company to mow our lawn, and they had illegal immigrants that were working there. And when that was pointed out to us, we let them go. And we went to them and said, you have a problem with allowing someone to finish speaking. And I'd suggest that if you want to become president of the United States, you got to let both people speak. So first, let me speak. So we went to the company and we said, look, you can't have any illegals working on our property. I'm running for office, for Pete's sake. I can't have illegals. It turns out that once again they hired someone who had falsified their documents, had documents, and therefore we fired them.
A new NBC Marist poll of the crucial primary states of South Carolina and Florida shows that Herman Cain is now the front runner in both of those states. In South Carolina, he actually leads the field with 30% support among likely Republican primary voters. Romney pulls up second with 26%, with Perry now running a distant third at 9%. In Florida, where most Republican voters don't yet know that Herman Cain's 999 plan includes abolishing Social Security and Medicare, Cain is in a virtual tie with Romney for the lead, Cain at 32% and Romney at 31%, while Perry is once again far behind in third place at 8%. Joining me now, National Affairs Editor for New York Magazine, John Heilman, who was at the debate, MSNBC contributor Alex Wagner, Former advisor to the George W. Bush and McCain campaigns, Mark McKinnon, also joins us, and former chief of staff to Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann, Ron Carey, returns to the show. Thank you all very much for joining me tonight. Alex, could President Obama have had a better debate night?
You have to think that President Obama was sitting, just rubbing his hands together, saying, keep it going. I mean, it devolved. Literally, was there a mud pit stage left where they could just take out the VAT tax disputes, hand-to-hand combat style? I mean, look, you've seen these candidates graded on a number of different scales in the post hoc analysis, and I think some people are saying, look, Perry showed his true colors. He woke up. Romney showed some steel. I think at the end of the day, the feeling was ick.
John, did you get any honest assessments from any professional Republicans about how they think this really went last night?
Yeah, sure, Lawrence.
I mean, I don't care about Stuart Stevens' spin for Romney or the different spinners. I mean,
look, what happened last night was, for the first time of all the Republican debates, Mitt Romney got a little scuffed up. He has been like Hillary Clinton back in 2008. In the 2007 debate, she was a juggernaut throughout 2007 until they got to the Drexel debate in October, and all of a sudden, in one 2-minute segment at the end of that debate, she suddenly looked vulnerable. Now, this was not as bad for Mitt Romney as that was. That was the beginning of the end for Hillary Clinton. But this was the first time when the other Republican candidates treated Mitt Romney like the front runner. Most reporters at these other debates sat in amazement in previous debates at the fact that nobody else was seeming to care about the fact that Mitt Romney was floating above the fray. That did not happen in this debate. People tried to take Mitt Romney on health care, as you saw Rick Perry did there on immigration. He is now in the crosshairs of everybody else. That's a big moment, and he flinched. He got rattled. And there's no question that in that exchange with Perry had, didn't look great. But Mitt Romney looked like there was his big toes had been stepped on, and that is going to open the door to a lot more attacks in the coming days, negative advertising, and certainly in these debates, everyone's going to be on Mitt Romney in a way they haven't been before.
Mark McKinnon, did you see a winner in that debate other than President Obama?
I think the debate just proved that this thing is not settled yet. As John said, Romney last night, some blood was drawn, and it showed that the man who would be king may be vulnerable. And that Kane lost some altitude, and that Perry woke up, and he's got his batteries strapped on now. So, I think we have to just stand back and realize that, focus on Iowa and focus on New Hampshire. Don't look too far to South Carolina or Florida. It's meaningless until we see what happens in Iowa and New Hampshire. So it's time to really start thinking about what the impact of these debates right now is going to be on the first election, which is going to be in Iowa. So that's where I think we need to start focusing our attention.
Ron Carey, before I get to you, I want us all to listen to a spot where your former boss, Michelle Bachmann, was actually one of the voices of reason in last night's debate. Let's listen to this.
And there are women right now all across this country and moms across this country whose husbands, through no fault of their own, are losing their job and they can't keep that house. And there are women who are losing that house. President Obama has failed you on this issue of housing and foreclosures. I will not fail you on this issue. I will turn this country around.
Ron, she didn't get anything like the response that Herman Cain got for saying, if you're not rich, blame yourself. Michelle Bachmann in there actually refers to people losing their jobs, quote, through no fault of their own. That apparently is not the Republican view of how people lose their jobs in this country.
Well, Michelle there, I think, was playing the gender card. Her numbers have fallen dramatically, and she's trying to reach out to the women voters in the Republican Party and saying, I'm one of you, I understand some of the concerns you have there. That's fine, because she is trying to reinvigorate her campaign that has fallen dramatically. But, if you look at the debate performance last night, you don't hear anybody talking about Michelle Bachmann. I don't think there was anything memorable that she really did say. The show was Rick Perry and Mitt Romney going after it, and I thought Rick Santorum did a fantastic job going after Mitt Romney on health care. And really is interjecting himself as a leader in the campaign and the debates, going after and trying to press the attack on Mitt Romney. So that plus the Herman Cain 999, that's what people remember, not Michelle Bachmann's efforts to try to bring gender into the debate.
Ron, how long can Michelle Bachmann stay in the race?
Well, she can stay in quite some time because she does have an amazing small donor base of almost 250,000 people that have given money to her in the past. And, even if only 30% will write her a check for $25, that adds up to some real money. And you can run a very low-budget campaign in Iowa where it's really getting out there into the coffee shops and having your bus go from town to town. So she can stay through Iowa, I think, and I would be surprised if she doesn't stay through Iowa. But if she doesn't succeed in Iowa, then I don't see any path for her to go any further because New Hampshire is going to be ugly, and South Carolina is not going to be viable for her if she can't win in Iowa.
And Mark McKinnon, can Rick Perry climb back into this thing? He's sunk down into a distant third in single digits.
Absolutely. It was an interesting Wall Street Journal poll in the last week that showed that among the most conservative voters polled, and they are those who are most likely to show up and vote, Rick Perry is actually leading Romney. He's got $15 million packed away, and he's got a smart team, and they're going to be very targeted in Iowa where they have some real upside opportunity. So I don't count him out at all. I think there'll be a second act to the Perry campaign.
John, with the polling that Mark just cited, Romney has to be doing everything he can to keep Herman Cain in the race.
Oh, baby. They are.
Buy books. He's buying Herman Cain books, right?
Yeah, there's Cain's buying his own book, and Romney, who famously bought his own book back in the day, doing the same thing for it. Look, they are propping Herman Cain up. You go to the spin room at the debate, as I did last night, and you hear the Romney people. You were disparaging my friend Stuart Stevens.
No, I'm saying I'm joking. I'm joking. Stuart. He's a friend of mine, but you got to ignore what he says about his guy.
But listen, all of those guys sat back there last night and said, Rick Perry, desperate. There was a reason why Herman Cain is in the lead with us. He's the other businessman in the group. You have to take us. These are the guys with the private sector experience. Mitt Romney, Herman Cain. They talk up Herman Cain as if they want to have him on the ticket.
Herman Cain is his brother.
Yes,
Rick Perry's brother.
Exactly right. So, look, they want as many of those guys to stay in and stay viable. They want Michelle Bachmann. You saw him throw a softball question to Michelle Bachmann at the previous debate. They want Bachmann to be viable. They want Cain to be viable. And there is the question for them is, if they can keep all these people propped up, is there an opening for Mitt Romney to go to Iowa and sneak in and win the caucuses because the conservative vote is so divided? Can he sneak in and win that vote and then win New Hampshire and shut this whole thing down? That will be the fundamental strategic decision they have to make in the coming weeks. Are we going to play in Iowa or not? And if enough of these conservatives keep dividing the pie out there, it's going to be very tempting for them to do that.
Alex, you get the feeling Romney wouldn't mind saying goodbye to Rick Santorum. He's the guy who, from the sidelines, gets in some really hard-hitting shots and does not, make a fool of himself in the next answer like some of the other ones.
And I think, beyond the sort of fisticuffs quite literally and verbally with Rick Perry, it was Rick Santorum that gave Mitt Romney the hardest time last night. Rick Santorum has been ideologically very consistent throughout all of this, and I think in certain circles can make a relatively good case. He just has no platform. And so, in that sense, the fact that he sort of continues to be the gnat in everyone's ear is a nuisance, and they would like to see him out of this race.